What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I might have finally lost the plot for this season as I'm going to be showcasing a triple buffed XL fighting type team with Pancham, Timber, and Meanfu all on low kick, and then Meanfu also has the buffed Drain Punch. Now I've got to be honest, I am so out of ideas for this season as this team should be a pretty clear indication of. I'm also feeling super uninspired by the league rotations we've had recently and the sort of content that other creators are putting out, so I'm pretty much checked out when it comes to making regular videos for this season. But if you do have anything you are desperate for me to try before the end of the season, please do let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I have a few different ideas for types of content that I can make, which likely won't do that well, but at this stage of the season, it doesn't really matter. I'm also away from Friday until the following Wednesday, so there will be no content from me during that period. Now, before we get into the question of the day, I want to give a quick couple of shout outs. Firstly, to Shenanigans Stone and also to Bad Toad TTV for the donations and gifted memberships in one of my recent live streams. As always, the support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. What do you think is the most necessary buff/nerf that the Great League meta needs next season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Pancham into Shadow Quagsire. This is going to be a fairly neutral matchup here, which is fine with me. However, I've only got non-stab charge boost to throw with the Pancham, so I'm actually going to swap out after tanking an Octel and swap into my Timber. The opponent going to respond with a Tinkaton, which isn't ideal. However, we do have fighting type coverage, and fighting, of course, is going to be neutral into the Fairy and Steel typing, and because we got such a huge energy advantage, I'm able to reach a second Brick Break before they reach a potential Gigaton Hammer. Now, I do expect them to bait, however, even if they do end up baiting with the Bulldoze, that doesn't matter. I can outpace to the next charge move, unless they do go for another bait with another Bulldoze, which is fine with me. We're going to no shield, but the opponent swaps back into their Shadow Quagsire. Again, still fine with me, as we can go for a Brick Break, and I'm actually just going to choose to stay in here and force the opponent to throw some energy. I believe they've got back-to-back Octels, but we've got a Body Slam already loaded on the Pancham, so we're going to come back in and easily win CMP. We go straight for the Body Slam going to grab the final shield, so at this point, I'm going to no-shield this. Octel is going to connect. It actually barely doesn't get the KO, so I swap out straight away into Meanfu to get the full farm down. And then final Pokemon, not a Licky, but a Lickitung. I have not seen this Pokemon in a very long time. However, pretty happy to see it here with a triple fighting type team. The opponent swaps back into Tinkaton, but high jump kick gets the one shot there. They come back in with the Lickitung, and this is a very bulky Pokemon. However, we've got high jump kick. It gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's when they're into the next battle, we see a Licky in the lead. So this is a Great League matchup for me. The opponent again going to swap out into a Quagsire here, and this is going to be a pretty noticeable common theme here, is that the wins that we have are mostly up against like Licky and Quagsire teams. They are just the easiest teams for me to beat. There are a lot of teams out there that are just triple strong into fighting type teams, which unfortunately I had basically no chance against. However, this is the sort of team that we can very comfortably win against, and so a lot of the wins will be against similar teams to this. The opponent is going to swap out into a Pokemon, however, that is going to do very well into my team in the form of a Fearow. However, we can shield once, we can now fire off the Rock Tomb, and we do have a lot of energy on the Pancham. So Rock Tomb, going to be shielded, of course, but we come back in with the Pancham, and I'm going straight for Crunch. Body Slam, of course, is cheaper in energy, but Crunch ends up getting a debuff, and that could be huge for me. The opponent going to go straight for the Drill Peck here. I'm going to wait out my Switch Clock, as of course I am now Switch Lock, and the opponent should be able to swap out fairly soon. Not that they'd want to, because this is going to be a good matchup for the Fearow. However, because we dropped that offense with a Crunch, now Drain Punch should be enough damage to KO. Drain Punch does get the knockout. We also boost up our offense. The opponent comes back in with the Licky, and I tried to catch a charge move, but unfortunately it backfires. I'm now going to have to use a shield here as I cleared my boost to my defense, but the opponent committing to a Shadow Ball. That's a big mistake, as high jump kick gets the KO there, and we slightly overfarm, which does allow me to reach a Drain Punch on the CMP tile with the Arcatel, and Drain Punch from this range takes out the Quagsire, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, and this is unfortunately a more accurate representation of how a lot of these battles went. We're going to see a Corviknight in the lead, which of course, not really ideal for us since we do have a triple fighting type team, but it's only going to get worse once we see the second and third type, the second and third Pokemon on the team. We're now going to come in with the Timber, and unfortunately they can outpace me. However, they've not boosted just yet, so I might as well no-shield this next Air Cutter, and now I will have to start shielding, as of course the opponent did just get the boost. Now, I didn't throw a Brick Break straight straight away just because it wouldn't quite get the KO there. And so just in case they did no shield, it would be kind of pointless. As you can see, it doesn't quite get the knockout there either. But unfortunately, they're now going to come in with a Wigglytuff. Now, the only positive so far is that at least they do take neutral damage from the fighting typing from both of their Pokemon. However, a fairy type and a flying type is not really ideal for me. We're now going to go for the Body Slam. Body Slam is going to be shielded, so now I'm forced to swap out into my Mienfoo. Of course, I'm going to have to shield here. The opponent is going to go for an Icy Wind, debuffing my attack stat, but now I can go for the Drain Punch. Drain Punch, of course, going to boost up my defense. They actually no-shield that because they've got a third really strong answer into fighting types in the form of Galar and Corsola, and so unfortunately, I just have to concede the match there. But into the next battle, going to see a Quagsire in the lead, and with the Quagsire, hopefully for us, there is going to be a Licky Tongue in the, sorry, a Licky Licky in the back. I mean, there could be a Licky Tongue as well. We have already seen one, but we're now going to swap out into Timber, and again, we're just going to save the energy on our Pancham just in case the opponent has a Ghost type in the back, and it's going to be quite useful having that crunch coverage, where of course, Mienfoo has 0 coverage into Ghost type Pokemon at all, and Rock Tomb is not exactly the most efficient move nowadays, as it did get slightly nerfed this season. But anyways, we are now going to fire off another Brick Break here, winning CMP up against the Quagsire once again, and Brick Break is going to get the knockout. They're now going to come in with a Shadow Ninetales. I'm going straight for Crunch here, as it will deal decent damage. Crunch, gonna be no shielded. We don't get the debuff there, however, we do already have a Body Slam loaded, so Body Slam is now going to be shielded, and the opponent is now going to look to overfarm. I believe they are one away from back-to-back Weather Balls, so Weather Ball gets the KO there. I'm going to come in with the Mienfoo, and the opponent is going to throw straight away. Now, Mienfoo, if you didn't know, is a very attack-weighted Pokemon, so I'm going to have to shield even a Weather Ball, but now I can swap out, make a catch onto my Timber, and hopefully their third Pokemon isn't going to resist the fighting-type damage, and if not, then we should be looking pretty good. The opponent going to come in with Empoleon. That is perfect for me. A Drain Punch, not going to deal too much damage there, but they're not going to reach back-to-back charge moves, in which case, might as well throw another Drain Punch there, boost up my defense by a second stage, commit to the full farm down. The opponent can reach one charge move there, but we've still got a shield intact. So now at this point, I did think about going for a full farm down, but actually we're taking no risk. Instead, Drain Punch takes out the Shadow Ninetales, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle, going to see a Charge Bug in the lead. So, not a great lead matchup for me, as they are going to resist the fighting type damage. So, I'm actually going to tank the Charge move here, and then once again swap out into my Timber. I'm hoping the opponent will actually stay in this matchup. I'm going to shield the first Charge move just in case they do end up staying in, and the opponent is actually not going to swap out. So, now I can full send a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb, of course, even if they do shield, is going to, of course, debuff their attack stat. So, now I can afford to no shield the next move here. We're going to no-shield as they go for another discharge, but now they swap out into a Primeape. I'm going straight for Brick Break. Brick Break not going to deal too much damage here, but which should now hopefully look to grab a shield from a Body Slam, whereas before Body Slam probably isn't that threatening. At this point, kind of have to just let the Pancham go down. Rage Fist, of course, not quite going to get the KO there, so they do get slightly extra farm. It doesn't really matter too much, as I should be able to shield once with the Mienfoo and then commit to a full low kick farm down. The opponent is going to go for the charge move. Even if they just go for a Rage Fist, we're going to have to shield anyways, but now we can commit to a full farm down, but the opponent's actually going to swap out there. I'm able to swap, catch the charge move onto my Timber, discharge, going to get the knockout. I'm now going to look to overfarm, and I'm going straight for high jump kick. This is resisted damage, but like I've mentioned, we're attack weighted, it gets the KO. They come in with a Shadow Quagsire, and can we possibly get the one shot here? This is going to be so close. High jump kick, unfortunately leaves them on like 2 HP, and unfortunately doesn't quite get the knockout. Arcatel takes out the Mienfoo, and unfortunately I end up losing that game. But GG's up on there, into the next battle, I see Morpeko in the lead, so a positive matchup for me, and especially since they do go straight for a Psychic Fangs. Of course, yes, this is super effective damage, however, I don't really mind that at all. Now, they're going to come in with a Talonflame. I'm going to go straight for a Crunch here, whilst yes, of course, we've got Rock Tomb for coverage on the Timber. We're probably not going to be able to land it into the Talonflame, as they do still have 2 shields in play, so now I'm going to swap into Timber, and like I just mentioned, we're probably not going to land a Rock Tomb, so I might as well just bait with a Brick Break here, as Brick Break is going to drop the defense, and we can reach a second Brick Break before they do reach a second charge move of their own. So Brick Break number 2 gonna be double shielded, and the opponent cannot quite commit to a full farm down, so we're gonna no shield here. Flame Charge, gonna get the KO, but we can come in with the Mean Fu, and I'm actually gonna transfer the Incinerate damage onto my Pancham here, and this is gonna be very nice for me. Flame Charge, gonna get the knockout, but that's fine. We can go for a full farm down before a boosted Incinerate damage registers. Now, unfortunately here, I end up over-tapping, but Mean Fu still wins CMP up against Morpeko, which is actually slightly better for me, and that final Pokemon also weak to the fighting typing. It's going to be a Ferrothorn, and that's going to be game over. High Jump Kick gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I see Florges in the lead, so not a great matchup for me, but I can go for a Body Slam straight away, and it looks like we win CMP as well. So, of course, Body Slam, I'm going to be no-shielded by the opponent. I do expect a Chilling Water here, but that's fine with me. The opponent actually going to go for a Trailblaze, which may be slightly worse for me, because now the opponent, of course, ramping up their attack stat. I'm going to have to start shielding Trailblazes or Chilling Waters, which I don't really want to do. But we're going to swap into Timber. I'm still not going to bother shielding the first charge move here, as they are only single-stage deep. Single stage buff there, but we are now going to go for a Brick Break. Brick Break, gonna grab the shield there from the opponent, but they can go for a very aggressive Fairy Wind farm down. Not ideal for me, but we're now going to come in with our final Pokemon, our Mean Fu, and the opponent is actually going to swap out straight away, but unfortunately, they've got another Pokemon that is going to completely wall the fighting typing, which isn't ideal since Mean Fu has literally zero coverage whatsoever. Of course, you could run the fast move of Pound, but that's honestly, that is just not a very good move at all. Here, I'm actually going to double shield, and I'm going to try and look to farm up to basically 100 energy, at least having a High Jump Kick and a Drain Punch. So yeah, we do have 100 energy, which means High Jump Kick, we've already seen this, does enough damage to take out the Charger Bug, and if they come back in with the Florges, we can go straight for a Drain Punch. So they come back in with the Florges, we're going straight for Drain Punch here. Drain Punch is resisted damage, but it gets the KO. Their final Pokemon is Morpeko, but unfortunately, we don't quite have enough energy. We're forced to swap out, but in doing so, we end up clearing our boost to our defense, and as a result, we barely don't live the Thunder Shock damage. We don't reach another Drain Punch, and unfortunately, we end up losing that game. But GG Star Trainer into the next battle, and you can see the opponent is very clearly lagging. However, our team is very weak into a Toucannon, so honestly, I'll just take whatever benefits I can get here. So yes, I realize they are lagging. We should not be able to win this game, or at least not this matchup in the one shield scenario, but they also go for a Rock Blast, which is a very interesting play there. Then I'm going to come in with a Shadow Torterra, go straight for Body Slam, and now I swap into my Timber. The opponent going to go straight for a Sand Tomb, which I can tank relatively comfortably, so just going to no shield. And the final Pokemon, unfortunately for me, is going to be a Jellicent. Jellicent, of course, is going to double resist the low kick damage and the Brick Break, so I'm forced to go for Rock Tombs here, but the opponent is looking to go for a full farm down, so we go for a second Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb gets them fairly low, and then I actually swap out here, just force them to throw some energy, as of course they would be able to fully farm me down there. Pancham goes down to the Surf. They are double debuffed here, but Mean Fu honestly can't really tank anything, so we're going to come in with the Mean Fu, and I am just going to shield the first charge move they throw, regardless of what they end up throwing here. The opponent is just going to bait with another Surf, which is not ideal for me, but now I can go for a Drain Punch. Now, Drain Punch will not KO from this range, but I'm hoping to grab the final shield, and I'm able to do exactly that. Not only that, the opponent, they clear their debuff, but they swap into Torterra, which gives me a huge opportunity to win this game, because now all I need to do is farm up to back-to-back charge moves. We're at the Drain Punch. Do I also have a High Jump Kick loaded? It's going to be super close, but the answer, yes we do. We're able to win CMP, and this is double resisted, but it takes out the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I'm going to see Tinkaton in the lead, which is not ideal for me. We're going to be swapping out into Timber, and unfortunately, even less ideal for me, they're going to come in with a Galarian Corsola. So, of course, our Pancham has Crunch for coverage, so this will be much better for the Pancham, but we can still debuff them with a Rock Tomb, and I should now be able to live and actually reach another Rock Tomb before they fully farm me down. So, I'm going to go for a second Rock Tomb here. Of course, Rock Tomb still not really going to put them into farm down range, which isn't ideal, but we can come back in with the Pancham, and they are now double debuffed here, so we can afford to no-shield the first charge move, as the opponent is going to go for the Nightshade. You see, that really doesn't deal that much damage damage now. Unfortunately, Pancham is just a pure fighting type rather than a fighting and dark type Pokemon like its evolution Pangoro, but even still, they're double debuffed here. So I'm actually going to look to swap into my Mienfoo, hoping to go for a very aggressive farm down, and Mienfoo actually able to get that huge farm down. Then I'm going to come in with a Tinkaton, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to start shielding. This is very clearly just going to be a Bulldoze bait, but they also end up dropping my defense, which is not ideal for me at all. I don't really want to go for a bait here, so I go and full send high jump kick, but unfortunately, that ends up getting shielded. Obviously, if I went for Drain Punch there, that would put me in a much better position because I would have boosted up my defense once again and, of course, saved some energy. But high jump kick, gonna connect, it does decent damage, but their final Pokemon is another fairy type, is Carbink. There is literally nothing I can do there, and so unfortunately, I do concede the match. But GG Star Trainer into the next battle, going to see a Licky in the lead. So once again, great lead matchup for me, but again, I don't have any stab charge me pressure here, so I'm actually just going to stay in this matchup and then eventually swap into my Timber. I did try and catch a Body Slam, does not work out for me. However, the opponent is going to full send a Shadow Ball. I'm sure they're going to swap out eventually, but nope, never mind. They're choosing to stay in here, so we're going to go straight for a Brick Break, and Brick Break is going to get the KO. Then I come in with a Feraligatr, and we're going to go straight for a Rock Tomb. The opponent is now looking to overfarm here, which is fine with me because Rock Tomb now going to debuff their attack stat, also dealing decent damage. Here, I don't know why I went for Crunch. Honestly, Body Slam probably grabs a shield from this range, and if I went for Body Slam, I think I would have had back-to-back already. But either way, we're going to shield the Hydro Cannon. We're now going to go for the Body Slam, and if we grab the final shield, honestly, we look to be in a pretty good position. The opponent is going to use their final shield there. I'm certainly not going to bother shielding this. Hopefully, they don't have something that walls the fighting typing in the back, but surely, given they did not swap out of their lead matchup, they don't, and they're going to have a Shadow Quagsire. So we've already seen high jump kick barely doesn't KO after 4 low kicks, but actually, it gets the knockout this time around. We can go for the full low kick farm down, so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's on their into the next battle. I can see Credilli in the lead. So, great lead matchup for me. The opponent is going to be swapping into Clefable, and I'm just going to stay in here and fire off a neutral Body Slam. Body Slam, not really going to hit that hard, but we can reach a second Body Slam before the opponent throws any energy of their own. Now, the opponent is farming up to a potential Moonblast here, so I did think about shielding, but you know what? We're not going to bother shielding. The opponent just baits with a Meteor Mash. However, that still ends up getting the KO, which certainly is not ideal. But I'm actually able to reach a Brick Break throwing on CMP, winning CMP with a Timber, and Brick Break is going to be shielded. So surely at this point, well, never mind, I'm still not going to bother shielding. They go for a Meteor Mash. I'm now going to come in with the Mienfoo. They are desperate for switch advantage, so hopefully they have 2 Pokemon weak to the fighting typing in the back. This time they do finally full send a Moonblast, but we shield, and let's see what they want to do. They come back in with Credilli. I'm going to look to overfarm just a little bit here. High jump kick is not respected. It gets the one shot, but they had a Jellicent in the back the entire time. Honestly, I'm not really sure why they played this battle out the way they did, but unfortunately, unlike the Mean Shout, which does have access to both Brutal Swing or Grass Knot for coverage moves, Mienfoo has literally nothing in the coverage department in terms of its charge moves, and so unfortunately, there's just literally nothing I can do here. We go for back-to-back Drain Punches, making it an awkward farm down for the opponent, but even throwing some energy there, we are just too low on the Timber. There's no point shielding here. We're just going to let this go through. Surf gets the knockout, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. I see Clefable in the lead this time around. So again, not ideal for me, but again, we're going to go straight for the Body Slam, and Body Slam is going to be no shielded. We've already seen 2 Body Slams, isn't really going to put them into farm down range, which is not ideal. However, this time around, we do just narrowly live the Meteor Mash and reach that second Body Slam. So Body Slam number 2, going to get them into the yellow health range. We can come in with a Timber, and I will look to try and throw a Brick Breaker straight away. The opponent is going to go and full send the Moonblast this time around, which we do correctly shield. I'm now going to look to overfarm quite considerably and then fire off the Brick Break. Brick Break is going to be shielded by Clefable, which is very interesting, and they do just barely outpace me here. At this point, we have tried to save a shield for the Mienfoo in the back, and unfortunately, because of his lack of coverage, it has not worked out for me. So this time around, we do end up shielding here, but we've got a huge energy advantage. We go for the Brick Break. The opponent's now going to swap into Licky, and that's quite a smart play on the opponent's end there, because of course, they took the Brick Break, they got debuffed in their defense, and then they just cleared that debuff straight away. Whereas now, we're forced to swap out as they can outpace. Shadow Ball does big damage there. I can look to throw on CMP. However, if the opponent does a perfect job of overfarming, there's literally nothing I can do. So the opponent, they're going to look to overfarm overfarm, and they overfarm perfectly there. We were just one away from the Drain Punch, but Alcatel gets the KO, and they can actually now outpace me to the next charge move. Well, I guess it would have been CMP, however, it doesn't really matter. They've still got a shield in play. I don't bother throwing. Alcatel takes us out, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG to win there into the next battle. I see Ludicolo in the lead. So this is going to be a neutral matchup for me. The opponent is going to throw straight away, so they don't throw it on the best timing, which is fine with me, as it does allow me to get a low kick in for free. We can now go for a crunch, and we can actually outpace them to a body slam as well. So crunch, going to be no shielded. I'm now going to throw the body slam on CMP, winning CMP with the pan jam. And the opponent, they are not going to bother shielding the Ludicolo. I'm now going to swap out straight away into Timber as the opponent comes in with a shiny Toad Scroll, which is, by the way, a really nice shiny there. We're going to go for a Brick Break. Brick Break going to be no shield, as of course the next Brick Break will deal more damage. I'm going to shield here, even though I do expect it to be a wrap, but the opponent actually goes for a Seed Bomb there, which is fine with me. We're now going to go for another Brick Break, and Brick Break number 2 probably will grab a shield at this point. We've got the shield, but they swap out and clear the debuff by swapping into Furret. Now, of course, this is a great matchup for me. We go for Brick Break, the opponent going to shield there, and I assume they're going to farm up to back-to-back charge moves, so I swap and catch the move onto my Pan Jam. They actually go for a Trailblaze there, which is quite surprising, but either way, it shouldn't really matter. We can now come in with the Mean Fu, and because they are debuffed in their defense, I think I can just shield once and then commit to a full farm down. The opponent is going to swap back into their Toad Scroll here, but this is fine with me, as of course, Seed Bomb, not going to deal too much damage. I can just go straight for the high jump kick. High jump kick is going to be massive overkill, and the opponent realizes it's game over, and so they just concede the match. So GG's up there into the final battle of this video, leading into a Bug Bite Fortress. So this is definitely a lot better than Volt Switch, because Volt Switch would hit for neutral damage. It would also allow them to get to charge moves a little bit faster, whereas Bug Bite, whilst it is, yes, stab damage, it's not dealing that much damage as it is resisted by the fighting typing. We swap out into Timber there to clear the debuff, and the opponent's going to come in with their Tinkaton. So far, very strange team, as they are incredibly weak to a fire type in the lead. However, I mean, we're in no position to judge in terms of what the team is weak to, because we are running a triple pure fighting type team. But anyways, we're going to go for another Brick Break. Brick Break not going to be shielded here, and we do get the Tinkaton incredibly low. And again, I don't think this is going to be a Gigaton Hammer. It's just a Bulldoze there, which we can tank. We are now double debuff, which is unfortunate, but even still, we're resisting the Bug Bite damage. I can reach a Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb going to be shielded. Now I swap back into Pan Jam. The opponent doesn't really make sense for them to go for their own Rock Tomb, so likely going to go for the Sand Tomb, but that's still absolutely fine with me. We're going to overfarm as much as possible here, leaving myself with very minimal HP. That way, if they no-shield the Body Slam, of course, we don't give a huge farm down to whatever comes in. And the final Pokemon, once again, going to be a Licky Licky. So we go for Crunch there. Crunch, unfortunately, doesn't get the debuff there. And also, even though we were very low, we still give them 3 rollouts worth of energy, but we should be fine here. I'm going to show the first charge move as they go for the Body Slam. I can now outpace to the next charge move, and Drain Punch, of course, going to boost up my defense stat, which means unless they're running something like a Hyper Beam or a Solar Beam, I should live even an Earthquake here because it is non-stab. I can definitely live a Shadow Ball from this range, reach another Drain Punch, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.